Peace, family. It's your brother Chase back at you again with another video. And check us out, man. A little bit under the weather today, but I had to give you one. This is another good reactionary video. This time we're going to be reacting to a FBA sister. I believe her name is Sabu, or her podcaster's name is Sabu. She's an FBA sister, or what I think is an FBA sister, who lives out in South Africa right now. And she's going to be saying some very interesting things that I think we need to address because it's starting to become a cycle even amongst foundational Black Americans. And that's something that we got to clean up, some of these talking points. With that being said, let's get into the video. I'm going to play the video and react as we go on. And again, excuse me because I'm a little bit under weather, a little bit stopped up, but nonetheless, I promise you guys one video a week. So we got to give you the one video a week. Let's tune in right now.
Another thing that I heard you say too, and we've talked about this before, because I'm having trouble now at this big age that I'm at, that with my own culture, because the things that I grew up to be my culture are no longer. So when individuals have said that Americans don't have any culture, some people get quite offended. I don't. Because it's a lot of things that I don't relate to that are going on now, and the things that I could relate to do not go on.
Okay, let me address this, family, because that's very problematic. Because what I'm starting to see is the new Pan-African starter pack is to really downplay foundational Black American culture, really kind of beat up on Black Americans. A lot of Pan-Africanists do this in order to make themselves more relatable to Africans on the continent or Black people around the world. They always go around shitting on essentially their own culture that they've created, family. And one way they do this is to essentially refer to everything negative or highlight everything negative about our culture and make that the end all be all of our culture. So of course we're probably going to hear the hip hop, the drug dealing. They love highlighting what is seen as the negative aspects of our culture and making that the face of our culture, when our culture is very diverse, is very active, is very expansive, family. Let's be clear. Our culture is one of the most influential cultures the world has ever seen. In fact, I would challenge anybody to find a greater culture than foundational Black American culture, especially in the context in which we had our ethnogenesis in. The transatlantic slave trade, slavery, different things of that nature, the Jim Crow era. We have foundational Black American cultures responsible for over 50,000 inventions, many of the inventions you see today. Let's be clear, our culture is very expansive, and it is far, 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 far more positive than the negative aspect. Unfortunately, the only aspect that gets highlighted is the negative aspect. And unfortunately, you have some foundational Black Americans like this sister, in order to feel more comfortable around other Africans, she tries to downplay our culture so they'll feel comfortable. But let's continue.
So I get it.
Yeah.
I get it, but it's very difficult because I'm thinking, the things that are contributed to America right now, or African Americans now, as culture, are not good. And we've talked about it. You don't have to go down that road, but we've talked about it.
I do want to offer this, though, that for anyone who says African Americans don't have culture, I would just like to say that our culture has been appropriated by the rest of the world.
That's a fact. Shout out to this brother. And I think this brother's name is Dr. Malik. I think this brother's originally, he's going to say in the video, I think he's originally from New Orleans, but he lives in South Africa as well. Shout out to him. We got to start checking that type of talk on the spot. When you run across people who start talking about whether they're FBA or whether they're non-FBA, and they start talking about we have no culture, you got to check that on the spot, because that's a very dangerous rhetoric. Okay?
Culture is so influential that it's been appropriated by the rest of the world. And here's what I mean. Gospel music finds its roots in the plantations of Mississippi and Louisiana, and its birthplace in Chicago. And the biggest ambassador of gospel music was Mahalia Jackson from New Orleans. But gospel music is around the world. So even if you want to praise your God, you're using our culture. If you want to R&B music, rhythm and blues, again, blues music born on the plantations of Mississippi. You want to make love to your spouse and you turn it on our culture. If you bite a piece of fried chicken anywhere in the world, you are literally biting into our culture. Fried chicken comes from African Americans. Right now, you have people in Japan and in China who are breakdancing and rapping using our culture.
In Africa, family, let's be clear, one of the top music genres in Africa is hip hop. And even when they're not outright doing hip hop, you have some of their more popular art forms like Afro beats that incorporates hip hop and foundational Black American R&B and it merges it into their own little African style and flow. Okay, so when they talk about we have no influence, we have no culture, they literally eat off of our culture. Even when you look at, like I say, some of their more popular artists, Burna Boy, all these dudes, man, a lot of these dudes, you wouldn't even know they're African if they came over here because their whole aesthetic look is FBA. Okay, so let's be clear. The brother's spitting facts right now. Shout out to Dr. Malik.
Culture has influenced the entire world, so I can understand why you say, where's our culture? Because everyone else has appropriated it.
Well, I hear what you're saying, and I agree to that. You're exactly right. And those are the things that I grew up in, and it was my culture. I think what I'm saying.
Then why do you act like they don't exist? Okay, why do you act like they don't exist anymore? Like there aren't positive Black people out here doing positive things, breaking down barriers as we speak, inventors as we speak. I just saw a young FBA sister, and I believe she's the granddaughter of, I believe her name is Dorothy Tillman. She just graduated college at 17. We got so many phenomenal foundational Black Americans walking around, but they only choose to highlight the negative ones. Okay, they only choose to highlight the negative ones. Okay, and that's done purposely. But let's continue.
And mostly is that I don't see that now. I don't.
Because she's not looking, family. Let's be clear. You're not looking. If you're not seeing foundational Black Americans doing positive and innovative things, you're not looking in the right spot. Okay, your algorithm is off. That's part of your problem. You got to reset your algorithm. See, people choose to find the negativity within foundational Black American culture and ignore the positivity. Hell, you're sitting in a room with light bulbs. That's foundational Black American culture. Light bulbs, the filament for the light bulb was created by a foundational Black American named Louis Latimer. Okay, I'm sure when you go down the streets of South Africa, you see stoplights. That's Garrett Morgan. Okay, I'm sure when you go into medical institutions, they're doing things like open heart surgery. That's Daniel Hill Williams. Okay, I'm sure in that nice, beautiful mansion, you have a home security system. Okay, that's Maria Van Brown, foundational Black American. I could go on and on. Y'all want inspiration? Look around you. We got 50,000 freaking patents. Okay, stop acting like the only culture we have is drill rap. Come on now.
Don't see it now. I don't see the promotion of Christ, religion, gospel music. I don't see it. Well, so, and I don't see I don't see people marriage, making love. Well, you know. Love.
And by the way, a lot of this type of stuff as well. And again, I have to interrupt the video because it is a reactionary video, family. Those are things that go on around the world. Okay, the damn Asia's got yakuzas and gangs and different things of that nature. Japan just released a report talking about marriage rates are down in their country. Okay, but they don't say, "Oh, we don't have no culture because marriage rates are down now." So come on, bro, stop holding us to this unrealistic standard.
Ain't nothing wrong with love
You
making.
know,
That's
ain't
how
nothing
you
wrong
make
with love
that's how you
making.
make
You're
more faithful people.
Marriage and things of that nature. I don't, it's mostly things are so intense. There's really not any getting along. It's always a fight. It's just, I'm saying, I do know what you're saying. And those are the things I do identify as my culture and what I grew up on. I just don't see those things now. But the chicken in China, okay, I get you.
Yeah.
That is real.
Our stuff is our stuff, you know.
I get that is real.
And by the way, for those who don't know, when they talk about the chicken in Asia, they're talking about Korea-style chicken. Korea-style chicken is one of the most popular fried chicken styles in the world, but a lot of people don't know that originated with foundational Black American GIs who went over there. I believe it was during World War II. Okay, and they introduced them to that cooking style. Okay, that became very popular. So that's what he means when he says, "Hey, man, they're over there eating our culture." All right.
So when it's just a pushback, and then for us in New Orleans, in particular, for people to say, "Oh, you know, Black Americans don't have a culture." We have one of the most distinct cultures in the world. One of the things I remember about, I mean, when you say you have Cajun spices, if
definitely.
that's Louisiana.
That is Louisiana.
New Orleans, right? I came here. I came to South Africa in 2019, and I was in the airport in Cape Town, and on the menu, I was getting something to eat. On the menu, it said New Orleans style French toast. You know, we are, our culture has, New Orleans has consistently had the most distinct culture, one of the most distinct cultures in the United States.
Absolutely, family. And to add to what the brother's saying, family, our culture is so influential. People forget where the shit comes from. Have y'all been seeing that? A lot of them, when we challenge them and we tell them, hey man, you're cosplaying our culture, a lot of them look shocked. They forgot we created the hip hop. We created this aesthetic look, from the lace fronts to the gold grills, XYZ. We either created it, we pioneered it, or we popularized it. The reason why they're wearing it and doing these things is to emulate us. And they've been doing it so long, they forget it's our stuff. Okay, that's how popular our culture is. But let's continue.
It is, again, if you take a black person who was born in maybe Detroit, never been to the South, never been to New Orleans, coming to New Orleans is as foreign to them as if they got on a plane and came to South Africa. It is a totally different place.
I can definitely see that. And two, you know, I understand what you're saying again, but we do have to give credit also to the South African family, or to Africa and the continent, because we have.
Here we go. We gotta spin it. See, when the brother comes with receipts, well, she started off with, well, you don't got no culture, to now what she's gonna try to do, because this is part of, unfortunately, in 2025, the Pan-African Starter Pack. When we point out our culture, they have to spin it into, well, that's really African culture. Okay, so I got a feeling that's what this is finna go now. When we start pointing this type of stuff out.
Have picked up in America, I would say, a lot of their own cultures too. So that's why I don't get the argument. That's why I don't get the beef, because we have picked up on a lot of things that come from here, the continent, versus, you know, and it's like, what do you?
Oh, absolutely. And,
so,
and New Orleans.
And she's saying she doesn't get the beef, but you started off saying you don't mind when people say we don't have a culture. So they always start off with disrespect, and then when we clap back, they call it a diaspora war, a beef. No, this is one-sided. We don't run over to Africa saying they don't have no damn culture. These are two FBA, brother and sister, living in South Africa. I'm sure they would never tell South Africans they don't have no damn culture. But people feel comfortable to get in within our mix and tell us we don't have something, while at the same time cosplaying us, while at the same time using our inventions, okay? While at the same time boosting their self-esteem off of our achievements. Okay, come on now.
A prime example of that. Our funeral traditions of carrying caskets through the streets, that's a West African practice. So
respect.
Just again, a history on what New Orleans is and what it means to how the history influenced the culture. We were, as most Black Americans were enslaved, they were enslaved under the British. In New Orleans and Louisiana, we were enslaved under the French, which gave us a different dispensation of slavery. Still brutal, still vicious, still inhumane, but different. One of the differences was that on Sundays, enslaved Africans in New Orleans had the day off. They were,
and that happened in a lot of places as well too. You know, my folks is from Mississippi. When you study the slavery in Mississippi, most times in the British colonies as well, they would give enslaved foundational Black Americans, the Sunday was the day off. You know, that's when we would plot a lot of escapes. You would plot a lot of resistance. That's when a lot of breaking of the tools would happen on the Sundays. So shout out to the ancestors for plotting on a lot of them holy days.
Allowed to congregate. And we congregated in a place called Congo Square, which we still, as Black New Orleanians, still congregate every Sunday in Congo Square. Why is it called Congo Square? Because a large majority of the enslaved Africans came from the Congo. But it wasn't just the Congo. We had Angola, we had Ghana, we had Mali, we had Nigeria. All of these Africans met in this one place, and that birthed Black New Orleans culture. Our food tradition came from that place.
And I partly agree with him on that, as far as, you know, of course, we know there were Africans who came in the slave trade and they helped to They brought some type of cultural form with them, or remnants of that cultural form. But also in New Orleans, you had an indigenous population of blacks as well, the Chata, and others. Chief Warhorse talks about that all the time. You have the masking Black Indian parade. So you have indigenous cultures. It wasn't just this straight up and down African culture that came over, and that's what built Black New Orleans. Okay. You also had white French influence as well, because like I say, when many of them talk about a lot of the enslaved people coming over during the Haitian Revolution or after the Haitian Revolution, about 30 to 40% of that population was white. Remember, you had a lot of white slave owners from Haiti running over to New Orleans as well. So it wasn't just Black Haitians coming over as enslaved Black people. It was also white Frenchmen and other groups of people coming over. New Orleans has always been a melting pot. And then you had that indigenous population in there as well. Okay, that's why if you go and look at interviews, a lot of the indigenous people now, even some of the red-skinned natives, they'll tell you they have no problem with the Black Masked Indian parade, because they say, hey, man, those are our brothers too. If you go down there, I believe on the Whitney Plantation in New Orleans, where's the Whitney Plantation? I think it's in Louisiana somewhere. It might be in New Orleans or somewhere like that. But if you go down there, they actually have the names in the birthplaces of some of the enslaved people that were on those plantations, those people who be amalgamated together to become foundational Black Americans. And some would say, hey, they came from Congo. They came from Angola. They came from places in Africa. Others would say Black and Native. That's on those plaques down there on the Whitney Plantation. Look that up, family. They never talk about that, because we're supposed to be delusional thinking that you got some Native in you. We're delusional. But they have Black and Native, Black and Native. If you've been down there, family, comment below and confirm that for the family. But let's continue.
Another thing that came from that place was the birth of a form of music that was used here in South Africa as a form of protest. Hugh Masekela, Miriam Makeba were jazz musicians. Jazz music is born in Congo Square by the mixture of these Africans in New Orleans. So our culture,
right, who had an ethnogenesis and created their own musical form. Now, it might have had bits and remnants of elements of African spiritual music, but it became a new form of music. Okay, they use ragtime to create jazz. They use blues, which is another foundational Black American invention, including ragtime, to make jazz as well. So let's not act like it's just straight African. And even the brothers that he mentioned who pioneered South African jazz, and it's interesting, it's still today called South African jazz, because if it was just some ancient form of music, they would have just kept the traditional name. But they acknowledged that, hey, man, this is a Black American form of music. We're just going to put our South African style on it. Okay. They studied the works of Dizzy Gillespie. They studied the works of Charlie Parker and others. Okay. We had a lot of influence in the South African jazz scene that they studied us in the 1950s and 60s. And they created their own bebop bands and musicians. Okay. Understand how influential foundational Black Americans in our culture is. So this is why we get on people who start talking about that BS that we have no culture.
is worldwide.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, I like that. I just love to see more of it. I would love to see more of it. But
and see, I highlight that part because she's talking about she loves to see more of when we're praising Africa. Okay, again, that's part of the new Pan-African starter pack, and that's the reason why I have a lot of problems with these New Age Pan-Africanists. Because, see, they want this one-sided praisal. See, whenever foundational Black Americans, like the brother, he was giving it up to some Africans who were doing some things and bringing elements, and he was saying Africa, Africa, Africa. Then she's, oh yeah, we love to hear more of that. But then when it came to her acknowledging foundational Black American culture, she always had a pushback. Well, that ain't really, that ain't the culture it used to be, X, Y, and Z. I have no problem when Africans sit over here and say we have no culture. They love disrespecting us. That's cool. Okay, that's cool. But when we start praising Africa, that's what they want to hear more of. That was very telling, family. That was very telling what she said at the end. You know, well, yeah, I want to hear more of that. When the brother is kind of to some Africans who did some things and who brought some elements to places like New Orleans, oh, I want to hear more of that. But when it's time to give us credit, well, that's really not culture. It's negative. It's bad. Well, it was really the Africans who brought it. They always have to undermine us, family. Okay? And we got to stop doing that. And I put this on here because this is an FBA system. And a lot of us have been ingrained with this mindset as foundational Black Americans. We have to dumb down the uniqueness, the beauty of FBA culture to make other people feel comfortable. She's been around. She's trying to fit into the Pan-African mix. She lives in South Africa. Okay? So this is the way she makes Africans feel comfortable. Well, don't be intimidated by our culture. It's really just your culture. We really stole it and took it to America. It's no telling what she's saying around there. It's no telling what she's saying around there. Okay? But it's your brother Chase, man. Tell me what you think. Comment below. Let me know if I'm tripping. Maybe I'm looking too far into it. Okay, comment below, subscribe, like the video, and make sure you share. Until next time, family, I'm going to go take some medicine. Hey, man, peace and Black power. I'm out.